And now, a brief word from Byrd.
Gambling is taking the fun out of sports. Competitive games are a part of our culture. Whether you are talking about playing chess or playing Fortnite, the social connections we make with our fellow man through acts of play have been critical since, well, the dawn of civilization. We've been playing since Mesopotamia, man. Let me know if you've been playing it with your friends in the comments below. But seriously, out of all of the types of games, it's hard to argue that sports aren't the most impactful to our culture. I mean, people have died over them, so that's gotta be the bar, right? So, it's hard to say, but there's been a shift that's made sports feel more hollow, more cynical, more monetary.
This Sunday in New Orleans, the Philadelphia Eagles will try to block the Kansas City Chiefs from taking home an historic third consecutive Super Bowl title. There will also be an historic amount of money riding on the game. The American Gaming Association estimates that nearly $1.4 billion will be legally wagered. As Paul Salmon reports, proof of a snowballing and potentially perilous sports betting craze.
I'll be upfront with you, sports gambling has existed side by side since the inception of games. It sounds stupid to say out loud because, you know, it's a game within a game, right? It allows for the audience to participate and get in on the action, as the gambling companies like to say. Of course, some people may have gotten a little too into the action. Sports gambling has a long history of controversy in the US. Famously, in 1919, there was the Black Sox scandal, where the Chicago White Sox baseball team was accused of throwing the World Series. But we're not talking about internal sports controversies, we're talking about public betting.
Why, you worthless hunk of junk?
Modern sports betting in America can be traced back to 1949, with Nevada becoming the first state to legalize sports gambling. But there was a caveat though, as there was a higher tax for those types of bets, which curbed the interest in the local and tourist market. But by 1974, that tax was removed and the floodgates have been open ever since in Sin City.
Let's go gambling! Let's go gambling! Gambling!
Well, what about the rest of the country? While the existence of some sports betting locations were normalized, in 1991 the Senate held a hearing on the harms of sports gambling. It concluded that, if unchecked, it could become a national epidemic. So the following year, they passed the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, known as PASPA, which banned sports betting unless you were in one of the grandfathered locations like Nevada. All is well and good until you realize people don't really give a shit. You aren't gonna kick someone off their fun habits so easily, and this just gave rise to illegal and offshore sports betting.
That sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Basically, you'd work with a website that operated outside a US jurisdiction and play with your money there. You might notice that this sounds similar to a certain other type of gambling that Valve was under hot water with in 2016. These sites sound like extra work, but you'd be doubting the statistic that 90% of gamblers quit before they hit big. In 2018, it was estimated that $150 billion a year was spent on illegal sports gambling in the US. And when you hear that B word, you know the government is going to want to get in on that action. So in 2018, in Murphy versus National College Athletic Association, the Supreme Court ripped away the law prohibiting sports gambling federally and left it to the states. Since then, 38 states and DC have legalized sports gambling, and man, we've been feeling it ever since. I'm not trying to be some stick in the mud about what you guys do in your free time. Hell, I'd be hypocritical to say that I haven't thrown in a few parlays on ESPN bets. When I would be at the house with my dad and my brother watching NFL games, it would be customary to throw in some bets before the game started that day. Our teams would lose, we would all be down $100, and everyone would be in a swell mood. But the issue with this modern gambling climate is that it never seems to turn off. Gambling is an addiction. It is quite literally classified as one and recognized by the National Institute of Health. With other addictions, there is a clear-cut moment when the dopamine hit stops. If you're drinking, you have to go out of your house to get more alcohol. Same with drug consumption, unless you're Jesse Pinkman, a trip to the local alleyway is needed to participate and start the hit again. There's a limit. We used to have those limits for gambling via government protections and technology limitations. And right now, the government really isn't coming to save us. If you are at least 21 years old and in any of the 38 states plus DC, you can gamble your life savings away without leaving your house. I don't know, man, but that sounds just horrifying.
Jesus.
And have you seen the advertising? You can turn on any channel right now. There is a good shot during a commercial that one of the promotions is telling you to get in. Even on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen ads before you watched a video from one of your favorite channels. I'd be willing to bet that some of you even saw a gambling ad before this video. Leaving your house doesn't stop the bombardment either. In fact, it probably makes it worse. On the way to work, the trains and stops are covered in ads for FanDuel and DraftKings. The billboards on the highway are whispering truths of the almighty luck. And the celebrities, oh my god, the celebrities. We got Kevin Hart and LeBron joking about it. Haha, so friendly, they're gambling just like you and I. Sully from Monsters Inc. is selling you the promise of money.
Garbage time. That phrase never sounded quite right.
Don't you want to be just as cool as Eric Andre if you blew $300 on the Browns beating the Ravens? Oh wait, you actually would have won that bet. Never mind. This is all by design. Companies like MGM, DraftKings, ESPN, and FanDuel spend millions and millions of dollars on every corner of your life having some form of their face on it. And it's not even explicitly commercials. Commentators and sports broadcasters will quite literally tell you about their bets right before the game. And you'd bet your bottom dollar that these guys get paid to promote this, even having special deals in the app that mimic their wagers. While sports betting is limited to those 21 and older and in participating states, you can't shield those ads from kids. Yeah, companies aren't going on Nickelodeon and demanding your child put their lunch money on Providence winning March Madness, but leagues are trying to get kids back into focusing on their sports. The NFL has been recently pumping out more kids-focused broadcasts on Nickelodeon.
That was money.
Appreciate it. Bounds on his own.
Even Disney, who owns ESPN, has been getting in on the fun with stuff like Toy Story Fun Day, where they have the NFL players modeled into toys playing a live game in Andy's room. This might sound like a stupid tangent, but we've seen priming like this before. As I previously mentioned, one of the biggest worries of the lootbox epidemic in video games was that it was enabling addictive tendencies at an early age. It was an issue that these gaming companies were pushing sometimes necessary parts of the game through chance. And we had content creators aggressively advertising third-party sites involving skin gambling to their audiences composed of children without disclosing their ownership of these sites. Maliciously advertising this to an impressionable crowd. What's the difference between that and sports pushing the scam? Just trade EA for the NFL and content creators with celebrities and professional athletes. Little Timmy gets to see his favorite game and idols tell him that he can get in on the action and win big. That leaves an impression. In the same way that we fought for smoking ads to be restricted and show the actual harm of the product, so too do we need to fight for the same restrictions in gambling ads. I'm not saying ban sports betting again, because restricting vices like that doesn't work and we have the history to back it up. It's finding a middle ground that other countries have in place. Canada and the UK are good examples. Betting around involved matches is strictly prohibited by broadcasters. You can opt out of any sportsbook and have all of them match that status. In the US, you have to go one by one through each sportsbook. These might sound small, but these protections have large impacts. Do you think we're gonna get any of these? No, probably not. In the same way that they spend for advertising, these sportsbook apps spend hundreds and thousands of dollars in lobbying the federal government. Also, from legal betting, we created $1.8 billion in state revenue in 2024. Like, what's gonna stop them from doing this?
You need to convert this fucking third down!
What?
Unfucking real!
But to top it all off, I think the worst part about all of this is the harm to the players and the game. When money is on the line, and this goes for anything, the status quo changes. Fans and betting fans are two entirely different beasts. Collegiate and professional athletes are targeted for death threats and acts of violence. During 2024's March Madness, the NCAA conducted a study that showed 1 in 3 high-profile athletes, men and women, were targeted for vicious threats by bettors, with women suffering 3 times more than men. These are college athletes, students, people who are doing this solely for the love of the game. And if they go professional, it doesn't get any better. Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks described getting hurtful messages and racial slurs thrown at him for ruining a parlay. Tyler Bass, an NFL place kicker for the Buffalo Bills, had to delete his social media after the threats he got for missing the game-winning field goal against the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2023 playoffs. I get that there is passion for the teams and fans want to see them win, but you are crossing the line when you are berating and threatening the people whose job it is to quite literally entertain you. What kind of world are we wanting to make when sports become this toxic environment of people treating the game like it's an investment in a portfolio? There's a great video by Extranet Shaquille that I'll link in the description where he talks about sports betting. He goes into the biggest misconception with these bettors, which is that the good ones know that it's not about the sport, but pricing knowledge and odds set by the books. It is a skill that can be learned but is obfuscated by so much misinformation and superstition. You are preaching to people who don't want to listen. Let's keep it a buck here, you aren't making your money back 99% of the time. If you go down that path, it leads you to not only taking the fun out of the sport, but the betting apps shadow banning you for knowing how pricing works.
Sports bets have a closing line value, or CLV. If I got a good deal placing a bet at plus 150 and the CLV was minus 300, that means I beat the CLV. I bought the wager at a price that was better than the normal guy. And if you beat the CLV like 80% of the time, alarm bells are going to go off. Like, kick this guy out. He's doing something to get an edge.
It's insane, and I highly recommend the video, but if you are in a lose-lose situation, what's the point? Why not just enjoy the game right in front of you? Like I mentioned before, my dad, my brother, and myself would make it a tradition to place bets during game days. One of the ones that always comes to mind was on Thanksgiving a few years ago. We'd sit down in the morning before the game started and build a parlay off of $100. I decided to have some fun with my money and take the over on one of the kickers making 3 extra points. My dad and my brother said from the start it was a stupid bet, and I wanted to prove them wrong. If you know football at all, 3 extra points isn't asking a lot. I can't remember what team it was, but it was probably the Cowboys because they always screw me over. This time was no different, as they only made 2 extra points, missing the others. I was shocked, and of course words were thrown around. But the reason I remember this moment wasn't because of the money. Heck, I made the same bet another year and it paid off, and I can't tell you anything about that game. The reason I remember this is because of the fun I had with my family. We got to watch great football and have some fun on the side. There was a purity in that moment, and that's what sports is, or at least should be. It's athletes defying physical and emotional odds, using their craft to etch their name into history. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the fun.